If you ever wanted an easy breezy way of making a bright, bold background that you could put any focal image on, stay tuned. I'm going to show you how. I'm using deep violet, cadmium yellow, and orange. These are medium body paints, my preferred style. So I'm working on a 9x12 Canson Mixed Media art journal, and I am going to give this a coat of gesso. Don't sweat the small stuff, just slap it on with a paintbrush, just a thin coat. It just prepares the paper for anything that we're going to throw at it. So I put the paint out, and along with the three colors that I mentioned, I decided to add cadmium red. And how am I applying them? I'm just applying it in kind of blocks, kind of block and blend, wet on wet. And by wet on wet, I mean that I'm blending the colors as I go. That coat of gesso that we put on the paper beforehand, that makes it easier for the paints to blend because they stay on the surface instead of soaking into the paper. So if you're finding it soaking into the paper, what you're missing is that coat of gesso. So I'm just mixing this and like I said, block and blend. I'm overlapping a little bit, but I want the different areas of colors. Don't really have a plan here, just putting it on. Started with my lightest color, mixing it. And I know that most of the colors that I'm using are going to, when they mix, when they blend, they're not going to create mud. The only one I really need to worry about is the deep violet next to the yellow. Depending on how much of what and how much of the other, it may not be a color that I like. Now you can use any 3 or 4 colors. If they're close to the color wheel, they're going to blend beautifully. If they're further apart, you kind of need to test the waters and see. So I am not worried about making this perfectly level. Anything that's there, the marks, that's just added texture that I'm embracing. And yes, quite honestly, at this stage, it does look like a hot mess, but we are going to add layers. So don't sweat the small stuff here. By the way, I love this combination, the cadmium yellow, the orange, the deep violet, and the reds. It's kind of warm colors, and they all look so good. As I said, this bright, bold background that I'm showing you how you can put any focal image. You don't have to put the focal image that I put. So now that I've got the base coat down, I'm just adding a little bit to brighten up some of the orange areas because it went on rather transparent, translucent. So now I'm starting some stamping, and I've grabbed some of my favorite stamps and mark maker tools. This one's kind of like a postmark, wavy, thin line, and I'm putting black acrylic paint on it with a makeup sponge and just stamping it. Right now, I'm just wanting some all over pattern and building those interesting layers. Putting it the other way, going horizontally and vertically. Like I said, at this point, I don't even know what focal image I'm putting in. I just want to play with these colors and make a bright, bold background. So here's another stamp, and I'm just stamping it around. It's a little tiny swirl. Again, I'm using black. I'm going over some of the stamped wavy lines that I've had. Again, don't overthink it. Just put it down. Then I have this one, which was a stamp that it was kind of a square that had it, and I kind of cut it off. This is giving me a little bit bolder black with those bright colors, the perfect contrast. The black is working here because it's giving that contrast with those bright colors. So that's a tip to use when you have a bright, bold background. Then I decide I want to add some text, some script, but instead of going black here, I am going with white, and I'm really liking that effect. It's pushing back everything else that's there. It's brightening up the page. So along with the bright, bold colors, add black, add white. That's going to give you the contrast. And look at this beautiful background that we've created. And it's really, really simple. I could have stopped here. Now, anytime I use acrylic paints on my stamps, I take the time to clean them off. So here I have this flower, and this is a mask. And what I'm doing is I set it down and I'm putting the acrylic paint around it. Now, I start here with Prussian blue because I wasn't sure that I wanted black. But when I flip it up and look, it's just not exactly what I want. So I am going to, leaving the mask in place, use black. And it just goes over it. So you can try a different color. And if you don't like it, you can always let it dry and go over it. Don't be afraid to experiment and say, oh, if I use this color instead of that color. So I'm just going around it, and then I'm lifting the mask, moving it to the next place. One of my tips here is to put some of this mask off the edge. You don't want them all full on the edge. It takes the eye off the page, and it just makes it look better. So I'm going right around the flower mask, and going around it. And I'm going to fill the page with these flowers. I wanted to do bright and bold, and I also wanted to do something floral. Right now, it's the middle of summer. The flowers are blooming outside. I just wanted to recreate that inside. So I just keep working my way over the page. Now, if you don't have a mask, this was something I cut on my silhouette. You can trace a flower on manila tag, cut it with an X-Acto knife, and have the same thing. You can use a punch if you have punches. It doesn't have to be something purchased to be a great art tool. So you can see how I'm just moving the mask around and then filling in the black area. And I'm just using the makeup sponge. And I'm not going to worry a little bit if I get black on one of the tips or there's not a perfectly shaped flower, because this is not my focal image. This is part of the background. And you can see using that black is giving that high contrast. And it's making those bright, bold colors really stand out. So I'm just going to speed up the video a little bit here before we get to the next step. And don't overthink it. There is no right or wrong. There's just what you do. And if I don't like how this actually turned out, then I learn things and I can apply that learning to the next art journal page. If you don't experiment, if you don't try things, you're never going to learn and you're never going to progress in your art. Worst case scenario, it's not exactly what you want. And I'm going to share with you what I don't like. Right now, I absolutely love what's happened here. I love the background. I love using the mask. Then I decided I have the stencil part of the same flower in a smaller size. And I'm going to stencil that bright aqua color on it, making smaller ones. So here is the stencil part. So it's kind of cut close to the edge. So I'm just going to put some tape on it, mask off the other one so I don't repeat it. And I'm going with that smallest flower. Same flower pattern, just a smaller size. But this time it's the stencil, not the mask that I'm using. So again, a punch. If you trace it out, cut it out, then you have the mask and you have that. You can make it yourself. So I'm just going to put this in between, and I'm just using the bright aqua straight up. I'm overlapping some of the florals that are there, the bigger florals, and just adding that pop of aqua. Now, this aqua paint is very opaque, which means you really can't see through it when you put it on. So it blocks off everything that's underneath it. And that's one of the reasons I chose it. Now, very much adding this color right now very much changes my background, changes the feel of the whole page because I've gone away from those warm colors and adding this cool colors. It changes the feel of it. If you liked everything I had going on before and you do not like this, this is the part you get to skip. Cherry pick what I've given you, do what you like, skip the rest. I got some extra paint on there. I wasn't paying attention to my palette, so I had to clean up my mess. Just moving it around, and that you see how putting that on it really pushed back the other floral design. Two very different looks. Not one right, one wrong. There's the color wheel. There's where we put the bright colors, and there's the bright aqua. That's why I chose it. Colors across from each other, when you put them on the same page, they really add a lot of energy to your page. So some of this, I'm putting the stencil back on. It wasn't covering 100% because it's really dark underneath. And I just wanted a little bit brighter aqua there. So I'm just putting the stencil back on and doing it to get that brighter, bright aqua color. Line it up and redo it. So I'm going to go do that to all of them. Just because I want it a little bit more pronounced. And then I decided to stamp this floral pattern on here with white. I just thought it would add, this is the part, leave out. I don't think it added anything to my finished page. And in fact, I kind of wished it wasn't there. Live and learn. Then I grabbed that same stamp I used with black on the background, and I'm stamping that swirl in the middle of all the aqua. And again, at this point, I don't know what my focal image is going to be. I decide to grab my fine line applicator bottle. This is thinned down white paint. And I'm just dotting around all of the aqua flowers and running a line around the other flowers. And yes, it would have been easier to go around this flower before I put the aqua flowers on. No, I wanted to do it then. So if I was doing it again, or if you're doing it, you would take your fine line applicator or your gel pen and sketch around the bright colored flowers and then put the aqua ones on. And then I decide to splatter with gold. Now, I absolutely love what's happening here. I love this background. And quite honestly, I wish I had just put a sentiment on here and not even fussed about putting a focal image, put several sentiments because it's just gorgeous in my mind. Really, really liked it. But I decided that I wanted to put an angel. And this was in my stash. And as it is, it's just a photocopy from a folk art book or a page from the folk art book that I had cut out. There are words on it, and I've scribbled colors that I've used. So I'm just going to glue that on first with fluid matte medium, and then we're going to solve the problem of the things that are on there that I don't want. I think part of my problem with this angel is that it's ever so slightly too big for the page. I think that's part of my problem. So it's become very chunky and clunky on my page. And I think something a bit smaller would have been better. But this is what I had in my stash. And one of my objectives is to use up stuff in my stash, get rid of it, stop storing it, start using it. So then I grabbed my Winged Wonders sentiment pack. It has different ones about angels. And once that's dry, I'm going to deal with the writing that I have on there. And I'm just taking some gesso. Now, I am going to overpaint the entire angel. But where there's writing, where there's words, I need to put a couple coats of gesso. So I'm just going in, putting one coat on top of that. And then I'm going to come in with the brush and put a coat of gesso on everything before I paint it in any way. Giving it a dry in between always. And then I'm grabbing my angle brush and I'm painting this out. I'm using white gesso. You can use white paint. I've put a coat of matte medium on top, so that kind of seals the copy paper. And when you overpaint copy paper, it becomes more painterly. Even if you're painting it white and you're leaving it white, the copy paper is not, it's going to look like you just glued down copy paper. So this will add some substance to it. It makes it look nicer. So I'm just adding a coat of white paint over everything. I'm keeping basically the outline in, but those hearts where you see it and the eyes, I can still see where they are for my finishing, but I'm painting right over them instead of trying to make it more difficult and paint on top just around it. Don't sweat the small stuff. So if you go to a thrift store and they have some old folk art or have some other craft pictures, that's a great source of focal images. And I've shown you how to take out some of the writing that might be there. All you need is the basic outline, especially for those of us that are somewhat limited in our drawing ability. So while you can't really see the lines here, in real life, I can really see the lines. Now I'm just shading and edging with black around the edge while that white gesso dries. And then I'm shading around the angel. I want that angel to stand out from the background. And by using black acrylic paint here and kind of shading around it, it's just going to make it look a little bit like it's standing out, a little bit 3D. And now I want to apply the paint. I'm using a flesh tone. This is ceramic coat. This is an old folk art paint that I've had for probably 30 years, 20, 30 years. But you can buy a tube or a bottle of different colored flesh tones and use them. One bottle will last you a long time. I'm going to paint the shoes black. Now the white gesso is a little bit not dry, so it's making it gray, which I'm okay with. I kind of like that it's not stark black because it gives it some different tones on there, highlights. Now I grab my champagne gold stencil butter and I'm going to paint the dress. Nope, the wings. The wings gold. Now, stencil butters are iridescent and thick, and you can put them through a stencil and get texture, or you can paint it on like I'm doing here. And it has that shimmer, shine, iridescence that is, I love. But it's a little thicker, so you're getting a little bit of texture. Stencil butters are created by the Crafters Workshop, so if you want to check that out, there is a link in my description box below. And I believe a coupon code too, if you're interested in it. And they come in all sorts of colors. But this is an angel, so I want it to shimmer and shine and be all ethereal looking. Then I grab the white pearl stencil butter for the dress. So I've used two different colors of the stencil butters. And if your stencil butters thicken up a little bit, you can thin them with a little bit of water just to make it easier to paint on. Easy peasy. Then I grabbed the sentiment, decided to use the one, never run faster than your guardian angel can fly. I like the boldness of the font that was on this sentiment. Now, this is a sentiment pack that I created. It is available for purchase as a digital download from NINNYSNAPKINS.com. So I'll link that in the description box. So if you're looking for sentiments about winged wonders, anything with wings, this is a great one for you. Or if you're looking for different theme sentiment packs, I have probably more than 12 different packs, varieties that are available. So you can go check them out at NINNYSNAPKINS.com. Now I'm adding a little bit of shading on the inside of the girl, putting back, you know, the sleeves, the separation between the wings. And this is just black acrylic paint with the angle brush. And it's just going to put that shading in. If you had a focal image from a napkin, you could use that. If you had a free printable, you could use that. Coloring books are another great source of printables that you can use as focal images. Magazines. Like I said, this is a bright, bold, colorful background. Anything, any focal image that you like could have gone on there. I'm using what I have in my stash. Use what you have in yours. Use the stylus to dot the eyes. And I decide to dot along the sleeves. Not really sure that that added anything much to it. Again, I tried. I think if I had dotted a little bit higher up and maybe used some of that bright aqua, that would have been okay. And then I'm painting the hearts red. I'm using the same red that I have in the background, and I'm painting the hearts. And I can see the outline of the hearts, even though I put the stencil butter on top. So whenever I finish a page, I look at it and I say, what do I like? What would I change? What would I do again? Overall, I'm really happy with the background here. I definitely will do the background again. Try a different focal image and different colors. I hope you give something in this video a try. If you do, let me know. Until next time, go get creative.